Hi, everyone, and welcome to Who Threw the Curve. And today we have Randy, and I think we have Ruby again,
Yes,
hanging out
absolutely.
with Randy. Uh, Today, of course, we have myself, but today we're going to talk about an interesting article that we ran into. And the article is called Hamzee, I'm sorry, Human Z, being grown in a lab, then euthanized by scientists. So apparently, and this is an article. Apparently, in the 1920s, and correct me if I'm saying something wrong.
In
Uh,
Georgia.
in Georgia, scientists experimented uh, in breeding a chimpanzee with human semen. Right?
hmm
Is
They
that
took
correct?
a
And
and impregnated a female chimpanzee with the semen from a human male.
the chimpanzee gave birth
Yes,
to what they call a human Z.
and the term I just crawls all over me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no,
The
no.
term
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Tell the story.
So apparently, uh, the chimpanzee gave birth. Then I don't know at what time did they give it. They didn't euthanize it right away,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then eventually they did. They just killed
They
it.
started getting scared at what they had done, and the not only the moral problems with what they did, but the just what you believe in as far as religion.
Yep.
That just and then they kept using the word euthanized. You murdered a kid.
Yeah.
You
That you
murdered a
create.
child
That you created.
that you created because you weren't worried about it when you were thinking, "Oh, I wonder if this will work." Didn't you ever did the fact that just the sheer thought that they didn't even think about what if this works.
Right. And it's kind of like I don't know what's the name of that movie. The Island of Monroe, is it? Where the doctor was creating all these splicing humans and
I've heard of
animals.
that. Yes.
I, I I think that's what it's called. But this was in the 1920s here. However, I believe the article also said that Spain said that they created one in China as well. So, I mean, gene splicing and crossbreeding things is not new. We do that to dogs, we do that to horses, we do that to a lot of animals. However, when it comes to humans, uh, and crossbreeding, or so they say splicing, that's something that I believe probably as people we're going to think it's unethical.
It, unethical is putting it very politely.
You know,
Fucked up.
it is because you're going into a realm where you don't know what you're creating and what can happen, or or
You're God, really.
a lot of things could go wrong, a lot of things could go right, but most of the time they go wrong.
Yeah, I don't see how anything could go right in that. They and in the article that you put out there for us to read for the show, you're messing with God's work, man.
Right.
God created all this, and on the seventh day you rested, man, and that's all
So
there is to it.
the funny thing that we're talking about this and in the article. So as I did research for this, for talking points now, I really couldn't find anything they were referring to. So it's something that was. I'm not saying it wasn't true because a lot of shit that's true and they just throw it out there and they're the first ones to come out with it, but you really don't see anything on it. You'll see what you'll read is a lot of theoretically. And I think when people use the word theoretically is because it's true. Because nobody wants to come out and say, yeah, we do that all the time. So what
Nobody
we
wants
do,
to tie themselves to it.
but what we do is we sugarcoat it, and the word we use to sugarcoat things is theoretically. theoretically, if this happened, we do this all in theory, but no, you can't. It's not about theory. It's just you do it and you do it quietly. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because I'm sure they have a lot of things they experiment on and they're not letting us know, or they don't throw it out there. A lot of weird things, you know? Um,
If you
and
think for one
it's
second there's not a human being in a lab somewhere that was born from a chimpanzee or some kind of apes, you're out of your mind. Okay.
right.
But those people that are doing this are playing God, man. And that is just, I can understand the curiosity of wanting to know if you could maybe grow lungs and livers and stuff
Well,
like that for humans in chimpanzees. But then you got to kill the chimp to get
well,
that.
now that you say that, so remember, they're making like chicken now in labs, right? They're cultivating
Yeah,
chicken, like the meat. But what they're also doing is, you see, they feed us slowly. So they come out with, yeah, you know what, we're making chicken, so we don't have to grow chicken anymore because the chickens are gonna fart and they're gonna mess up our ozone layer with all the methane
yeah.
that comes out their ass. So they feed us slowly, but in reality, they are growing parts. So they're growing hearts and lungs for replacement, kind of like spare tires and stuff like that. But imagine they can't come out and say, hey, Randy, by the way, we just created like 20 lungs. Do you need one?
Yeah.
Because we're going to be freaked out and be like, really?
Where's it
What?
coming from? Oh, they've got these six chimpanzees in the lab. So what's going to happen to the chimpanzee? Y'all going to put it on life support? No, we're just going to kill it and take its lungs.
Yeah. Well,
As much as we all want to take care of our fellow human being, what's right is right, man.
that was the big problem with, that's the big, now it was, that is the big problem with cloning. And if you ask me, probably they're probably cloning people left and right.
They
But
are.
theoretically, the big problem with cloning is, are they people? Because these are things that were man-made. They weren't made uh, like me and you. They didn't go through the process. So they did go through the process of birth and all that, but they didn't do it. They didn't go through the process naturally. So are they human? Do they have rights? Can I clone myself so when I start deteriorating, I could take parts from the clone? And then, like you said, what happens to the clone? The clone has to die because I'm taking his heart, I'm taking his brain.
I, again, I just can't. No matter what good, no matter what evidence and what facts are ever put before me to justify or to attempt to justify this, I think that you're playing beyond playing. If there was something worse than something burning, you're saying you're playing with fire. You're playing with a nuclear bomb doing this.
Yeah, because I mean, back to, we did a show on evolution. Um, they're forcing evolution. So this wasn't a natural occurrence, but they're forcing by gene splicing and connecting two things together. You know, could it probably can can a person go bone a chimpanzee and make a child? I don't know, maybe. I don't know how likely that is, but I don't know.
I,
People
I, well, they
people
got the same
people
inside
fuck
we do.
horses, so I guess you can fuck a chimpanzee, but
Yeah, they got the same organs that we got. So of course you can go out and you can fuck a chimpanzee and ejaculate and get that semen up in there and get with that egg and you're gonna make a humanzee.
yeah.
But
So they're
how's that
forcing
right?
something that's kind of like uncontrollable at a point, but this
Mm-mm,
is from the 1920s.
my
I'm
point.
sure that it's being done now, and I'm sure that somewhere in some abandoned island, well, not abandoned, where they have some science labs and they're doing all this shit, that this does exist. I'm afraid to know what it looks like or what it is, but I'm sure it does.
I
And
mean, just think, you got a chimpanzee and a human. Okay, female chimpanzee, you inject the male semen, it bonds with her egg, and that baby,
Yeah.
baby
Well,
that was born,
I
you have.
the only thing I can understand is scientifically. We're talking about scientifically. Um, if you were going to do a study like this, I guess the best option would be a chimpanzee, since supposedly we share 98, I think it was like 94 to 98% of our DNA are similar. So I guess we would interact better if they did something like that. Because remember when we did the evolution one, we talked about how how could evolution occur? How can we grow from chimpanzees and the chimpanzee still exists? But they go on and said that they sugarcoat it and they go, no, well we branch from something and made both of them. This is why we're so similar in our DNA. But the crazy thing is, why why would you talk about it now? When people talk about things or they let things loose, is because they're planning to let something else out.
That's a good point. And that, why were they not talking? That's the one thing that makes me think this might not be true. And there's a difference between is it possible to happen, or and there's a difference between is it possible and did it happen. That's my whole point.
I
Back
believe I'm
20 and
sure it
now being
has.
about,
I'm sure it has. It's just you know since nobody's gonna accept that. Like listen. Remember when they were cloning the sheep? Nobody wanted that to happen. Like everybody was like, well, most people, not science, not the scientists, but most normal people didn't want that to happen. They thought it was unethical, so they didn't want the whole cloning thing. However, cloning continued to happen. They just kept it on the hush, and cloning still continues to happen. And if you ask me, to my belief is they're cloning. I'm sure they're cloning people for body parts. It's just at the end of the day, if you clone a person, if I clone you, then there's going to be an exact you growing, and it's going to be probably is not going to have the same characteristics. It's probably not going to have the everything about you mentally, but it's going to be physically you. You know.
yeah, I agree.
So I mean, it's a weird article, and it's something that we'll probably revisit. And like you said, I think it's very unethical, and it's just weird. And then at the fact is, you're creating these things, and then to kill them,
I think
you
it's a
know.
stuff that has more roads to go down to figure out the truth than I'm prepared personally to go down.
But
Uh,
with that, yeah, with that said, we're gonna have to revisit the human Z, and when you'll see within the next couple of months something else will come out. They'll probably show a picture of some little half-ass human chimpanzee dude running around.
that's yeah. This tells you that we it's like a to be continued. Like we hit on it, get it out there that we know what's going on, but we're gonna find out. Who wins the? It's like you got the start of football season, then you
Absolutely.
get the playoffs.
Yep.
Well, the inseminating a female chimpanzee with the semen from a male human season has begun.
Yeah.
And
Most
now, later in a couple months, we're going to be in the playoffs, and we're going to be able to talk about this more.
most definitely. I don't know. I think I prefer an AI than a human human
I think
chimpanzee.
yeah, I don't want anything that's flirting, anything artificial AI. It's a robot, whatever. I ain't. I'm gonna be as country as a can of peas. Ain't no good coming out of that, Rui.
No,
Ain't good
there
coming out of
definitely isn't, and it's just a lot of it's going to affect cultural, religious beliefs. Uh, Forget about the
on the
public
flag.
opinion. You know, it's just a whole landscape of things it's going to affect. So I'm sure we'll revisit this on our next one within the next couple of months. But with that said, I really don't want to see what a human Z looks like. Uh, I'll stick with AI
I'll stick with AI too. We
with,
agree, Rui.
with, with that said, don't forget to subscribe, share us. If you're not on YouTube, don't forget to like us and also follow us. With that said, we'll see you on our next segment. Thanks.